Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's poppin'? What's poppin', Fantasy Champs?
What's up?
My name's Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon on that side of the screen.
Getting lit, per usual.
Yeah, we just watched a full-fledged, a full slate, I should say, not fledge. That doesn't make any sense. A full slate of preseason games.
Yep.
And yeah, it was pretty interesting, exciting to have football back. I watched football like all Saturday, and I was like, oh, it's just a Sunday like 3 weeks from now. Literally, it's going to be Sunday 3 weeks from now.
Yep. Yeah.
Freaking exciting.
It's fun that it's back.
I'm so excited.
Sitting there checking all the scores.
And like now, there's a good chunk of leagues that are currently starting to draft. So we got to start getting this content out.
Yep.
Get these people information. Yeah. So today we're going to talk about our top riskiest wide receivers for the 2021 fantasy football season. Last show we talked about, I think the top 20, out of the top 24, the first 3 rounds or 4 rounds of running backs. We talked about 3 running backs that are extremely risky to draft. And on this show, we're going to talk about 3 wide receivers in the top 24, 25 who are extremely risky for you to draft and why you should be staying away from them. I feel like a lot of times people don't give self-explanatory content because me and Rick follow fantasy football all year. And Some of you may be coming in just now and being like, okay, it's August. It's time for me to start preparing for my draft. I'm going to start watching these videos. And then you find us and you're like, okay, what am I supposed to do? And we give you these risky guys that are big names. And we're like, no, we don't need to do that. We just need to tell you who the real risky players are. Because we've been following all along.
Right. We've been doing the research for months.
So
we have a pretty good idea.
We got you. So even if it seems self-explanatory to some people who follow it all year long like us, it might not be to somebody else who's just starting now. So we're going to do the top riskiest wide receivers today. And on Thursday's show, I think we're doing quarterbacks, and tomorrow we got a mock draft. So should be a fun week of content. And then following after that, last week of August. Yikes.
Dude, I'm excited. I'm not gonna lie, I'm excited.
Literally, I decided that August might be the worst month of the entire year.
Yeah, that is 100% accurate. I think
because you got Stanley Cup Finals in June, NBA Finals in July, and then like once that's over,
yeah,
August is like preseason football where we pretend we love it.
There is nothing but baseball in August, and you're already depressed because summer is ending.
I know. I'm not a summer guy anyway, but...
Yeah, but some people, you know.
Yeah, I'm not a summer guy. Big fall guy here.
Right. So you're getting lit. I mean, I'm a big fall guy too, so... I'm
pretty freaking excited. You're up in the mountains,
I like summer.
So you're going to be snowed in pretty much every day.
Well, as long as I have internet, I'll be okay.
Be fine. Before we jump into our top riskiest wide receivers, be sure to check out our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on any social media platforms, the FF Champs, or the Fantasy Champions is what you can search to find us. We're also on TikTok. We just posted an article by, what is it, Daryl? Daryl Novotnoy.
Yeah.
I hope I said that right. Daryl's listening, and he's like, you just botched my last name. Whatever.
Go check out Daryl's article.
He put out an article about quarterbacks and the late round draft strategy for quarterbacks. Check that. Be sure to check that out on our website. We may be making some updates to the website as well. So that might be coming in the near future.
Interesting.
We'll see. But anyway, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcast platforms, leave a review, share this podcast with your friends. If you're listening on YouTube, or watching on YouTube, I should say, subscribe, click the bell for notification, like, and then comment down below a wide receiver you're avoiding, you're staying away from. You're like, I want to draft this guy because he's going to burn my fantasy team. Simple as that.
Right. Then there's probably more players on this list that some people have an idea of who's going to burn their team. So if you have someone in mind, don't be afraid to tell us.
Leave it in the comments. So yeah, let's jump into our risky wide receivers. But before we do that, I did want to say, Rick, give me a 1-minute synopsis of preseason football this week. What are your thoughts?
Okay, excited that it's back. I wish it was more accessible for someone who doesn't have cable.
You like downloaded the NFL.com app and you're like,
yeah, I have Sunday Ticket, but like
it doesn't work for Sunday
blows. Ticket. I know the app blows. I'm not gonna lie. It's okay. Actually, it's good on your phone.
You haven't logged in. You gotta wait till the regular season
not Sunday
starts.
Ticket. NFL Mobile, I think, kind of blows.
Oh, the fantasy app for NFL.com.
Yeah,
right. Yes, it very much blows. I was like, you're ragging on Sunday Ticket? Get out of here with that.
No. I don't know yet. I'm new to Sunday Ticket. I just got it. So we'll see how that goes.
I won't judge you.
It was fun to see all the rookie quarterbacks. That I'll say, and they all did good. Well, all the first round ones. And even some first year get like Jordan Love, who didn't get to play last year.
Third year guys, whatever.
Yeah, he looked good too. I think he went like 12 of 16 for a touchdown. Now, granted, the touchdown was a screen pass, but
Rick, what rookie running back played this weekend that you're going to overdraft in the 6th round?
You mean the first round? No. Yeah, I watched Najee and I watched ETN. And then I watched Devonte Williams, and I was like...
He's like best running back in the class.
My pants are off, man. My pants are off. Devonte looked like the best of the three, in my opinion. And I liked him pre-draft. He was my RB2 in pre-draft, and I was like, him and Harris, I think, are close. And I thought ETN was decent, too, but it was always Devonte was the clear number 2 right behind Harris. And so far in the preseason, and I think offensive line plays a factor in it, but Devonte, to me, looked better than Najee Harris. Now, it's one preseason game, but we'll see, dude. I like Devonte Williams a lot. And Melvin Gordon's already hurt with a groin.
I'm like him. What?
Yeah, he's in. I mean, it's not hurt. Like, it's like day to
I don't
day,
want to root for injuries because I love Melvin Gordon, but imagine the draft stock. I kind of don't want to draft late.
I would take him in the same. I would take him 2nd round.
We are literally
Melvin Gordon's not in the picture.
No, bro, don't even lie to yourself. You take him in the 1st round.
First overall over
me and Rick before the show we're talking about like surprising like cuts that'll happen on cut day in like the last week of August or first week of September. I can't remember which day. I think it's the last week of August. But last year we had Leonard Fournette. Everyone was drafting what was it, 4th round?
Yeah,
Fournette last year. Everyone was drafting Fournette in the 3rd, 4th round, and then he got cut by like the Jaguars. And what if that happens to Melvin?
I mean,
Javonte
I'd feel very bad for Melvin Gordon because I don't think he deserves that.
No, because then he could totally go somewhere where they actually need a running back.
I would be so lit
like
for
Atlanta.
Javonte. All right, true. That's true. I'd be so lit for Javonte Williams.
I was kind of like, before I watched that game, I was kind of I still a little bit hesitant on, because there is no running backs mid-round besides maybe Rojo, Javonte, and like Damian Harris between rounds like 5 to 8 that I'm like comfortable with drafting.
Yep.
And those 3 guys are probably it. Like, if I'm being honest, like people will be like, "What are you talking about?" I'll be like, "Yeah, I don't know. There's no running backs there."
Yeah.
It's a streak of wide receivers for me at that point. But I'm like, if I want to draft a running back in the middle rounds, who am I going to go for? And I'm really having a tough time with Javonte because he's not in a similar situation to Jonathan Taylor last year, but he is really good, and if he gets the full workload, I mean, he could definitely be an RB1. It's just, do I want to spend a 6th round pick or a 5th round pick on a guy, or a 7th round pick if that's how far he falls? But do I want to spend that high a pick on Devonte Williams? That's really the question.
I don't know. Probably not.
But
I mean, for most people, no. For me, maybe.
Yeah, we know. So anyway, yeah, it was a good, fun weekend of football. It's good to have football back, even if it is in. I feel like the next games are going to be like no starters.
Yeah.
Usually the last one is like that, but I don't know how they're going to play it. Usually it's like week 1 you get one drive for the starters. Week 2 you get like maybe 1 or 2 drives for the starters. Week 3 they get like a full quarter or like a full quarter and a half, just to get themselves acclimated, and that's like the preparation game for the regular
that's what
season.
I feel like that's what this week is going to be.
I would tend to agree. Because it
then
would be the
last week
Steelers'
is
what,
gonna be
3rd
like
preseason
nobody.
game at this point?
Yeah.
For them?
Right.
But anyway, all right, let's talk about risky wide receivers, not rookie wide receivers. I mean, rookie wide receivers are risky. I will say that. But anyway,
that is true.
So we'll start off this list with, and this is a one or another player situation, but we scratched the other guy off the list. We just left this guy on, and it's kind of I don't know. Would you consider this a hot take?
I think it is a little bit.
And we're not saying they're undraftable, because there's situations. I've been doing a lot of mocks lately, preparing for that home league. Got to win it this year because I'm looking like a fool at this point.
I mean, no. Although someone did win the person who won this past year. That's kind of,
We started this league like over 10 years ago, and to put that in perspective, I was in the middle of my teenage years, so we only had 6 people.
It hasn't been 10 years. It hasn't been 10. It's close to 10.
But there was only 6 teams when we first started it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's grown now. We're at 12, and that's great. But the big problem is that the original 6 are here, and there's only 2 of us that haven't won a championship, and one of them is me.
Yep.
And there are people we let in later that have won. But the commissioner curse is on me.
Yeah,
and
it's real.
I gotta shake it. But anyway, so there was situations when I was mocking for that particular draft where Chris Godwin was falling to me in like 5th round. There was one draft he fell to the 5th round. And this is with real people, so I don't really know why that was the case. But I was like,
maybe
do I
it's not a hot
draft him?
take then.
Say that again?
I said maybe this isn't a hot take then.
No, but I was like, should I draft Chris Godwin in the 5th round? Because he usually goes like 4th, maybe 3rd, like late 3rd.
Yeah, he goes in like late 3rd.
And I'm like, should I draft him in the 5th round? Is it a steal? Like, I don't know how I feel about this. But anyway, Chris Godwin is our number 1 risky wide receiver on this list. Not number 1 overall, but just as a risky wide receiver. So we'll go through some of the pros, cons, and all the good stuff. Maybe not. Maybe just cons if it comes to it, because I think that next guy is all going to have cons. But yeah. I think what makes, for me personally, I think what makes Chris Godwin risky is his. I think it's the not the quarterback situation, because Tom Brady is the greatest of all time and you don't have problems with that. But it's Brady likes to spread the ball around. I think it's also the fact that last year a lot of people anticipated him to be in this slot receiver role, and I don't think he really was placed in that role like we thought he was going to be. I think I may be wrong about this, but didn't he play outside?
He did. He definitely did play some on the outside. I think they just moved him around.
But
a lot.
I feel like with Antonio Brown there, and you have Mike Evans, and you still have Gronk, and you have, what's his name coming back, the backup tight end?
O.J. Howard.
O.J. Howard. You have Howard coming back, and you still have Rojo and Leonard Fournette in the backfield. Like, there's so many options in this offense, which is what Brady wants. But Chris Godwin is going to be a situation where you're going to be on a roller coaster ride all season. He's either going to have a really great game or he's not going to have a really great game. And, he'll go 2 weeks of getting 20 fantasy points, per game. And then the next 3 weeks, he'll get 7 in a PPR, half PPR format. So I think for him, there's risk there. And I really feel that there's only one wide receiver that can really blossom in this offense as a top 12 guy. And I'm going to have to say, this is the first time I've ever said this in my life, but it has to be Mike Evans. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, because Mike Evans Rick said, Chris Godwin's younger, he could take over as the future wide receiver in this offense. But I just look at Chris Godwin and I'm like, until Mike Evans is not there, I just don't see him excelling, because they don't utilize him the way that they did with Jameis Winston.
Right.
Which I don't understand. But so I think that there's massive risk tied to Chris Godwin at this point. And it does become slightly concerning, especially when you're talking about a late 3rd round guy. If you're drafting him in the late 3rd round and he doesn't produce like top 15 numbers, you're going to be freaking disappointed. And there are going to be people out there who go and say, okay, Chris Godwin is, a top 12 wide receiver, and he's going to break out and have a really great season, and he's in one of the best offenses in the NFL, and that's great and all, but I just think there's way too many weapons in this offense for everyone to eat. And I think that Brady clearly has some kind of connection with Antonio Brown. He obviously has a connection to Gronk. He loves Mike Evans. And who does that leave out?
Yeah, that it leaves out Chris Godwin. And I was struggling back and forth, and I have been all off season, because I definitely don't think both Chris Godwin and Mike Evans are going to be worth their third round value right now. They're like wide receiver 12 and 13, both in that range.
Right.
I just don't see it happening. Brady threw 40 touchdowns last year. Will he do that again? I'm not sure. And I watched Brady all last season. Obviously, we're Patriots fans, so him in Tampa, I wanted to see it. I watched every single snap.
Don't kid yourself. You're going to freaking watch him this year, too.
Yeah, but not as much. I think last year was like,
okay, fair.
I just wanted to see it, right? And what I noticed about Brady, what he did with New England, it didn't change. He spread the ball out, like you said, a lot. And he gets everybody involved. And with Antonio Brown there full season, OJ Howard coming back, there's too many targets to go around. Mike Evans had 109 last year.
Yeah.
So that's not going to change. He had 13 touchdowns. But Antonio Brown had 61 targets in 8 games, on pace for 122 targets. So if he gets anywhere in that range again, and Mike Evans gets 110, and Gronk gets his 77, Scotty Miller gets his few, OJ Howard was on pace for like 50, 60 targets. So like, and then obviously they added Gio Bernard, Leonard Fournette is there, Ronald Jones. Brady loves throwing to running backs, screen passes, check downs, and those sorts of things. There's not going to be a lot of targets for Godwin. And maybe Godwin does take over that Evans role. And because I think Godwin's a very talented player still.
I agree.
So it's hard to just ignore him in the offense. I don't think that'll happen. But he might be underwhelming, or maybe Mike Evans is the one underwhelming. One of those guys will be. And I think the best guess would be Chris Godwin, just because, like you said, I think Evans is just, as long as he's there, he's kind of the alpha dog.
Right.
Godwin kind of plays the slot, but they used him on the outside. It didn't feel like they really had a set role for him last year. And with Antonio Brown being, I think, kind of Brady's security blanket, and then Mike Evans being the go-to guy on the outside, it might leave a hole there for Chris Godwin.
So I wanted to pull up the numbers here from when he got signed, which was, I believe, week 9 is when he first started playing.
Yes.
So for Chris Godwin, from week 9 all the way to the end of the season, he paced out at 110 targets.
That's not bad.
Well, it's not bad at all. And he didn't do horrible. Like, it's 1,100 yards and 10 touchdowns. But I looked at those same numbers in the equivalent time, paced out like weeks 9 through, what did I say, 9 through 17?
Yeah.
In half PPR on Fantasy Pro's website for fantasy, the fantasy stat leaders. Weeks 9 through 17, he was the wide receiver. I'm trying to pull the numbers up. Here we go. He was the wide receiver 14. So, I mean, with Antonio Brown, he was actually pretty good. And it's interestingly enough, Mike Evans was gone. Was he hurt at the end of the season?
Nope.
Where the hell is Mike Evans?
Maybe we got the wrong guy.
Maybe we just... It's Antonio Brown's wide receiver 21. Chris Godwin's wide receiver 14. Oh, Mike Evans wide receiver 9. So, I mean, can that happen? Can you have Chris Godwin be a mid-range wide receiver?
So that, I mean, that's possible, but now add OJ Howard to the mix as well, and you add Gio Bernard. And that's also Brady. Brady played at his peak through weeks 9 through 17.
Yeah,
I believe Tom Brady was lighting the league up. Yeah, I mean, he was QB 9, but he had 8 games played, so he played one less game than a few guys. He had more points per game than Kyler Murray, more than Justin Herbert, more than Ryan Tannehill. So he was like a top 6-7 quarterback points per game in that stretch.
I feel like too, we also have to reference, like, I'm not saying Chris Godwin's going to be a fat bust and be terrible. No. Because I wouldn't, if we were making a bust list, he wouldn't be on it. At least I don't think he would be on it. But I just feel like at his ADP, where he's getting drafted, is to his ceiling of the weeks 9 through 17 that he had last year, which is wide receiver 14 or 15. So if you're drafting, and there's other guys around that vicinity that you could draft that would be better, right? You have Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin is around guys like CeeDee Lamb, Allen Robinson, his buddy Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, Bob Woods. Like, I would take any one of those guys over Chris Godwin. Even like, would you take Julio Jones over Chris Godwin?
Ooh, probably. It's close, though.
So I'm like, when I look at it, he's going off the board as the wide receiver 14, which is exactly what his finish was last year from weeks 9 through 17. And it's like, if you're drafting him at his absolute ceiling right now, I that scares me. And so it's like, there's just a big risk tied to it because there's a chance that, hey, he plays to his highest potential, everyone stays healthy, and he's a wide receiver, 13, 14, 15 this year. If that's the case, you got a good floor play, or not a floor play, but you got a good play out of Chris Godwin. What if he plays at his floor, which I think could be like where Antonio Brown was, wide receiver 20, 21, and you drafted him at wide receiver 14? That's when you start talking about the bust conversation. So for me, Chris Godwin is in that conversation where I think the range of outcomes is so large, and I think the situations for him could be not great. Now, if Mike Evans or Antonio Brown or somebody were to get hurt or leave, or get suspended because Antonio Brown has a history of that, Chris Godwin would then step into a much larger role, and I think he would be better. But I'm not going to buy a guy who only had 110 targets as a top 15 wide receiver.
Right.
Now, he had more targets than that, but I'm just speculating over the course of the season with Antonio Brown in the starting lineup. So there's our thoughts on Chris Godwin.
Yeah. You want to move on to the next guy?
Yeah. This one's easy. Odell Beckham Jr. This is a hard like situation for people to let go of. Odell right now is going off the board as the 24th wide receiver, I believe. Yeah, it's 24 or 25.
That's
and I feel like the ADP is not horrible.
No, it's not. It's not.
But when you got talking about guys like Chase Claypool, T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk, Deontay Johnson around him, like, yeah, I'm not taking any of I'm not taking Odell Beckham Jr. All those guys. I think people have waited so long for Odell to be good, not only with the Browns, but ever since that not breakout season, but ever since the last season where he was a wide receiver 1 and he was elite.
Yeah.
When he had those first like real significant injuries and he had to miss large portions of time. That's when he started going downhill. And now Odell Beckham Jr. is kind of an old man. And nothing is changing in Cleveland. He's a good wide receiver. He'll probably end up with 1,000 receiving yards, probably end up with 5 or 6 touchdowns, and he'll have a decent season. But I do not believe or want to buy into Odell Beckham for fantasy purposes. He has no ceiling. And his floor is like below the boat. Like you open the hatch and the water flows through. Like,
I know. Yeah.
Your ship will sink if you're drafting Odell Beckham in the freaking 5th round and you're wasting your pick.
It's the name, man, because you look at the name Odell and you compare it to like Brandon Ayuk, and the casual NFL fan is going to pick Odell every single time.
Oh, I like this guy.
But it's not. He hasn't been good since 2016.
Yeah,
fantasy wise, and that's not necessarily his fault. He's battled injuries. Obviously, it's been different since he's been with the Browns.
Yeah.
But like you said, the Browns' offense is not changing. They're going to run the ball. They're going to do play action. He'll make a few big plays. Everybody will go crazy. But fantasy wise, he's just not going to be what you want him to be. And even like last year, when I heard a lot of people on Twitter being like, "Oh, Odell is back. Odell was going to have a great year last year," and all this stuff. And there are people on Twitter this year too saying like he's a steal at where he's going. Like you said, I don't mind where he's going, but it's not great. But like I said, last year, people were like, "Oh, Odell's back. Here we go." If you pace out his numbers, and I'm not going to include the last game where he had 1 target because he got hurt in that game.
Yeah.
So before that game, the first 6 games of the season, he was on pace for 112 targets, which is good. 61 catches, not as good. 851 yards, 8 touchdowns, and that's a good season. Okay, that is a good season.
It's a good season,
but it's not going to be a wide receiver 1 in fantasy.
Yeah,
and it's probably not even going to be a wide receiver 2. It may be a low end.
And I think when you look at last year's numbers, which I'm pulling up right now, was he even in the top 20?
I'm not sure.
No, Odell Beckham Jr. How many games did he miss?
I think he played the first 7 games of the season.
And that was it?
Yeah, he was wide receiver 23.
Yeah, so literally, once again, drafting a player at his ceiling.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying, like, I'm saying, like, if Odell has, like, a big season, right, and has a really good season, what does that look like? What's his absolute ceiling?
I think he could get, like, wide receiver 20.
So
okay,
basically,
maybe absolute big season, he could get, like, wide receiver, like, 16.
Okay, so basically what you're doing is drafting him as your probably wide receiver 3, because this is a 6th or 7th round pick. I said 5th earlier. I was wrong about that. But you're basically drafting him at the middle of like his ceiling almost, and like the best case scenario for him is probably wide receiver 15 or 16, and you're drafting him like he's going to have this breakout wide receiver 1 season again, and he's going to be Odell again and all that stuff. It's just not going to happen. And there's a lot of risk tied to this player, not only just because he hasn't performed like a wide receiver 1 since 2016.
Yeah,
but
injuries.
It's also the fact that like they run the ball a lot, and he is so injury prone. There is almost a guarantee that the guy's going to get injured again at some point.
He hasn't had a full season since 2016.
Yeah, so it's like I look at Odell and it's like I love him as a player. I think he's a fantastic NFL wide receiver.
I'm rooting for him. I remember last year in the Thursday night game when he caught a touchdown. It was his first touchdown of the year. I was excited. I was like, okay, I want to see Odell back. It's good for the game.
Yeah, no, it's true. But I think it's just easy for me to stay away from Odell. I'd rather draft the younger players that are around him. If you have a younger option like Deontay Johnson or Brandon Ayuk or Chase Claypool, T. Higgins, any of those guys in that vicinity, if you have a guy like that, like, and you're on the clock and Odell's one of your options, pass up on Odell, take the younger player. If Odell happens to have a great season, I will email me and I'll send you money.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on to the next guy. We only have a couple minutes left. It's Kenny Galladay of the New York Giants. So he leaves Detroit, gets a nice contract with the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Wide receiver 1 there now.
Very nice contract.
I would make a very nice contract. Wide receiver 1 there now. So I would say that he is a bona fide starting wide receiver 1 for the New York Giants. Excuse me, yawning in the middle of talking. I sense a lot of issues with Kenny Galladay. Some people will be like, oh my God, buy Kenny Galladay. Let's go. Saddle him up. And then there's some people who are like, worst wide receiver in the NFL. Don't know why he got that contract. And we don't have any sort of way or feeling about this guy.
No.
We just think there are a lot of risks tied to him. Player Profiler changed their website entirely, and now I'm confused.
I know. I was looking at that earlier.
I was like, what the crap just happened? Where are my stats?
I was trying to get advanced stats, and I couldn't find them.
You got to hit.
They weren't even on
this. Oh, never mind.
For advanced,
dude, I hope they didn't
like
make
the route running.
They're gonna make
because I was trying to see where Godwin lined up. I couldn't find it,
bro. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to show you how to do this after the show. I just figured it out. Anyway, so you have to scroll way down.
That's great.
I was looking. They used to have a chart for injuries on. This is shocking to me. I'm like stunned as I'm sitting here trying to talk about Kenny Galladay. Anyway, he has had a plethora. I'll just say this. Usually on Player Profiler, they have a chart where it shows you where a player gets injured all the time. Mm-hmm. It's like if you scroll all the way down on Player Profiler, and clearly they don't have that. Injury Tracker is what it's called. Oh, there we go. Found it. I got it. Don't worry. So Kenny Galladay, this just since 2018, I can go further back if you want me to, or I'll start in 2017. Ankle sprain, preseason. 2017, hamstring injury, week 3. 2018, chest strain, week 16. Concussion, week 17, same season. 2019, another concussion. 2020, week 1, hamstring strain. Week 8, hip injury. Preseason, another hamstring strain this year in the preseason. This guy gets injured so much.
Yeah, it's Odell. It's probably worse than Odell.
It's probably Odell worse than Odell.
Clean injuries, like an ACL injury, and he's out for a year. And Galladay gets like these minor injuries that affect him through the whole season.
Right. So it's like, for me, I look at a guy like Kenny Galladay, and it's like, he is great wide receiver, extremely talented. I don't doubt that he'll probably be good on the Giants. It's just a situation where I think the biggest factor that you have with him is that he's going to automatically miss like 3 to 4 games.
Yep.
And I hate to say that, but it's a good shot. He misses 3 to 4 games.
It's just using history to back up your point.
Yeah. And then there's also massive concerns surrounding Daniel Jones. And like, I don't know if you guys have been on Twitter or you are watching anything related to the Giants training camp, but Daniel Jones has not looked good.
Nope.
And it's like, so Daniel Jones hasn't looked good. Kenny Galladay can't stay on the field. If you connect 2 and 2, it equals 4, and it means Kenny Galladay is a risky pick. Now, he is going off the board. Normally, I would look at this guy and be like, yeah, 63rd overall, like, I'll take him. This is money.
Right.
But this is a similar situation with Odell, where you look at guys like Deontay Johnson, Brandon Ayuk, Chase Claypool, T. Higgins, even Michael Thomas. I don't know if he's going to play a freaking snap this season, but like, honestly would rather have him over Kenny Galladay.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where it's like, I look at Galladay and I'm like, a great player. I hope he has success with the Giants, but there is so much risk tied to him that he's one of those guys that if he's on the board, there's a very low chance that I'm drafting him.
Yeah, and I was telling you this before the show because this was my pick for risky wide receiver. Yeah. The risks, it's like a list with Kenny Galladay: new contract, new team, quarterback situation, injury history, potential target share. And I think that's one thing that you didn't touch on was with the Giants. Like, let's say Daniel Jones, I don't think he's going to be good, but let's say he's at least average, which that, by the way, is a huge concern on its own. Right. But let's say you're a huge Daniel Jones supporter and you're like, I'm going to take Galladay high anyway because I love Daniel Jones. Okay.
Right.
Darius Slayton had 96 targets last year. Sterling Shepard had 90 in 12 games. Evan Ingram had 109 targets. Saquon Barkley did not play last season. The year before that, he had, I think, 70 targets, 80 targets in that range. So he's going to get about 70, 80 targets. Galladay is going to have to be efficient with his targets. And I'm not saying that's not possible, but it's risky. It's risky to assume that.
I agree.
It's risky to assume he's going to play a full 16. It's risky to assume Daniel Jones is going to be any good considering what we've seen from him in his career and so far in this offseason. It's not been good. And for where he's going in drafts, it's risky as well because I think there's more surefire things in where's he going? Like early 5th?
Yeah, in that vicinity.
Yeah, I know a lot of drafts. Like I've seen, like he's like Tyler Lockett, Adam Thielen, kind of in that range. Who I'd take both those guys over Kenny Galladay.
Yeah,
they're in more secure spots. And like even some of the younger guys, I would think of taking over him, like a Brandon Ayuk and Deontay Johnson. I think Cooper Kupp has gone behind him in drafts, which I think is crazy. I would take Cooper Kupp over him. I think there's less risks there. So. Yeah, I'm not crazy about Galladay this year.
Yeah, no, I mean, all the points you made, totally agree with. And I think it's one of those things where he looks like a player like, okay, new situation, not in Detroit. Detroit blows. Like, he goes into the situation in New York, and they have a better offensive line, and they have better things going for them than Kenny Galladay had last year. And, like, I mean, would you consider... I mean, Daniel Jones blows. So I would say a better quarterback last year. But you just think the situation there is better for him but I just don't think it is.
It's not.
And
I didn't even mention Kadarius Toney or John Ross, who I don't think will be involved much, but there's always a chance. They took a first-round pick on Toney, so they might try to use him.
So I think it's one of those buyer beware stickers that gets slapped right across Kenny Galladay's chest, where it's like, hey, if you like the guy and you like the player, do you? But it's a fat risk, and if you end up getting pooped on because Kenny Galladay gets hurt or doesn't perform the way you anticipated, then that's your own problem. And we told you, hey, watch out for this player. So ain't on us.
We didn't tell you.
We let you know. We let you know now.
Say we didn't tell you.
So there you go. 3 risky wide receivers for you to watch out for: Chris Godwin, Odell Beckham Jr., Kenny Galladay. Keep an eye out for those 3 guys. I'm probably not going to end up with any of them on my fantasy teams unless they're absolutely cheap. Like if Odell ends up in the 10th round, I'll draft him. But anyway, tomorrow, mock draft. See you then.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.